It's the Gift of Gaming podcast, and we're talking about our favorite non-playable characters. The guys we loved but could never be the main. I find these intros really hard sometimes.
I think it's grand. Just keep going with it, you know?
Yeah.
Just shorten it to NPCs and just
go from there.
Swinging.
This is the NPC character episode, and here's the intro. Alright, today it's me, your host, Darren Wade. After a miserable effort of making an intro, I am today joined by Craig the Critical Nolan and Kev Purcell. Guys, how are you keeping?
Very well, man. Thanks for having me back. Delighted to be here, as per usual. Yeah, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm happy to be here too, as always. I just stay in this room. I just never leave. Yeah, this is where I rest. This is where I sleep. No, I'm doing well. What about you? Been up to anything? I hear you're playing some b-ball tomorrow.
Yes, yeah. Active basketball player again. If only my skills from 2K, NBA 2K transcended into real life basketball, I'd probably be way more confident going into it tomorrow.
Could you imagine if you could like have data files in certain games where you were like incredibly good at it, and like the Matrix, just like hook that up to your brain?
I was hoping you were going to go
Matrix
in that direction.
Oh yeah! Straight away, I was like, "Yep, totally on the Matrix."
That'd be so good. Yeah,
sick.
What would be your best file? Would it be basketball? Would it be your FIFA file?
Probably FIFA over basketball. Like the NBA 2K has gotten way harder to play. Not that it's harder, but there's a lot more to it. Like you have to, like, if you're playing as the point guard, you have to like run the court and design plays and call plays and pick like who's stronger offensively on weaker defenders, and there's a lot to it, and like the mechanisms change, so you shoot with like the right analog stick, whereas it used to be kind of quite straightforward, like tap square at the right time and it's like a perfect shot, but now it's kind of holding it down.
Yeah, they make you work for it.
They really make you work for it, but it's very rewarding when you start it's a very similar system to FIFA where you play systems, you go up through the ranks, but my ranking is way lower.
A quick question though, just on basketball games. Is it like real basketball where most of the middle of the court is completely useless, or is the game still in a way that you have to progress up the court? Because when I played it in the 90s, you very much had to get past a few people to get to the net. Whereas, do you know the way, like when you're watching on TV, as soon as someone scores, everyone just completely retreats back to their own hole. Is that in the game now?
Yeah, they've changed ever so slightly that you can choose to not do that. You can tactically say do a full court press, so you can choose what your defenders will do on the other offense and vice versa. So you can kind of shape it as you would like to play it. Yeah.
That's cool, because I'd always imagine them just it being a really boring and crap game if both teams were just defending their nets. I was like, well, that's like the real sport.
Imagine like cutting out the middle of the court, like the new basketball court is just two areas with nets really close together, and that's how they play basketball. Like I'd watch it.
Also, like with modern NBA now, and like the shooting is way different. So like if you're playing with a team that's got high caliber shooters like Golden State Warriors, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, if you give them any space in this game, they're sinking it. So you have to be aware of what you're saying there. You can't just let them walk up. Yeah.
And Craig, it's Zelda season. So
season, Darren.
You must be a happy camper.
I am extremely happy. So apologies for my answers may be terrible, because all the time I should have prepped for the podcast, I was just playing Zelda.
I can respect that.
Yeah, dead right.
I'd love if all of your NPC choices were just from Zelda.
Well, my first one is because I'm just like in the spirit of that. You know?
Yeah. I respect that. And so, I mean, you know, not to get you to go in too deep, but is it a good game? Are you enjoying it?
Yeah, I don't want to talk too much about it, but remember I was saying about Persona 5 and about all these, like, my top games that I just look out for these moments that in video games that I'll remember forever.
Yeah.
I've had like at least 4 of them already.
Holy crap.
You know, and each one I went, I can't believe that actually happened. And it did, you know, and like the mechanic was better than I thought it would be. You know, I'm like, okay, I bet I can do this. I was like, oh shit, that didn't work, but this did, and there's just bucket loads of them.
Yeah. Interesting, and it's, you know, it's one thing I'm a bit sad about, because I keep up with like gaming news on YouTube or whatever kind of Google stuff I'm using, so my algorithms are all video game stuff, and unfortunately I've never, like, I played the absolute crap out of Ocarina of Time, loved it. I think I played like the 3DS version of it, loved it, and but never played any other Zelda game, so I'm not in the Zelda. I played a bit of Majora's Mask, that was about it, but seeing like everything blow up on my phone about Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and it's like, this is a
Has
10
that
out of
happened
10,
to you?
10
Yeah.
out of 10, 9 out of 10. It's like, I'm absolutely...
I haven't watched a single review. For all I know, it's terrible, and only I like it.
No.
But that's not what
I mean, it's already a Game of the Year contender. I was only looking at a little thumbnail for a video from the guys at the Gifty Gaming podcast that I love, and they were talking about, I guess, the restrictions on talking about Final Fantasy 16 have been lifted, so a lot of people are putting out their reviews today for Final Fantasy 16, and their title was, Can Final Fantasy 16
Decrown
Zelda? Because everybody already is like, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is Game of the Year, which is like, we're fucking in May, and like I'm trying to think of what.
Well, they already said that for Breath of the Wild, and that was March too.
Yeah. And like, you know, and it's I've seen so many great videos of people like constructing hilarious different contraptions, and I'm like, it looks so much fun. But I'm like the kid thinking of bringing it back to sports. I'm the kid who gets picked last for the team. I'm like watching all these people have fun with Zelda, being like, man, I wish I played Zelda.
But you can be one of those people. You don't have to just like bitterly like stay on the sidelines. Like, no, I said my piece. I don't like Zelda. I have to stick to it.
But it's funny because I played, like, you gave me a lend back in the day of Breath of the Wild, and I played it like, I would say 10 or 12 hours of it. Just didn't do anything for me. Just didn't do it for me. And that's where I feel like, it's them that's wrong. Yes, Darren, it's them that's wrong. You're not wrong.
For me, Zelda's a day one title. You know, once all those things get spoiled, like that, there's a reason Nintendo barely released any footage of this game, and like only a week before the game came out, they kind of showed
the story trailer,
trailer, but it was so quick you couldn't even see any of the stuff you could build in the game, like at all. So like they knew what they were doing, and they were looking for those awe moments, of which there are many, and that's what I just crave, you know.
So one of my favorite parts in that trailer is, and it's only a second, if even a second, 2 frames worth of the video, and it looks like there's one of those goblin things on a really tall contraption walking through a valley.
I know exactly what moment you saw, but that's only like 1 second long.
Yeah. But that's what I mean. But I was looking at that, like, that's astonishing, because it looks like whoever's playing it has built like a mech thing of their own, and I was like, this game looks fucking mental, like, you know. And it's funny because I'll make the apology here, Craig, because I haven't made the apology. Back when we were talking about games that we were anticipating or excited about, I said that I think it's very stupid and awful that it's taken 6 years, and based on the first trailer of Tears of the Kingdom, I was like, this does not look like a game that took 6 years to create. I'm disappointed, and they've made a bad game. Everybody, I'm sorry.
That's very big of you.
I was
too
wrong.
little, too late.
No one will ever listen to me again. That's it. But guys, I mean, like, we can talk about, I'm sure Craig can talk about Zelda for ages, but we just don't have the time, which I haven't even actually started here on this timer thing for you guys to see. But you'll see now. We're about 10 minutes on that timer, guys, and you'll know where we're at. So today's episode is, we were talking about our favorite NPCs. Kev, this is one of your ideas. So if it's crap, we're coming for you.
Totally fair.
Yeah. No. I jest. But it was a good one, because it made me think. I actually spent a lot of time thinking about a lot of games from a lot of generations. I was like, God, like, you know, and so, and I was, at first I was really struggling to pick anybody, and I went online to get a few ideas of what some companies thought were really good NPCs, and I was like, oh, I forgot about this person, forgot about that person. But it was a cool trip to go down memory lane and have a couple. But as the man who kicked it all off, give us an NPC from a game that you loved.
Yeah, so I think the first person that came into my mind was that bowling-loving cousin, Roman Bellic of GTA 4. Absolute champ of a human.
We were talking about GTA 4, and I guess you obviously weren't on that episode. Yeah,
It was
because
you.
none of
Did
us
you
could
guys-
remember anything about GTA.
GTA 4, really?
Yeah, so
Oh,
it's funny.
right.
With the last,
Which one? That's hilarious.
the title of the episode was worst game in the series, and
Yep.
Bo, Craig, and Colin picked GTA 4
I
as the
think it's
worst.
one of the better ones. That's so
GTA
funny.
4, one of the
Yeah.
better ones.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
is
yeah.
outrageous.
It's so dark.
Yeah, but it's dark because there's no flying, and you can't ever see the sun because you're never in the sky. That's
the
why
sole
it's dark.
reason.
Yeah.
The lack of
Flying.
really.
Lack
Yeah.
of flying. GTA
Oh,
for
fair
me
enough,
is
yeah.
all about the flying.
Want to get that parachute?
I want to
moment.
get that parachute. I want to
Yeah.
get that jetpack. I want to get the Air Force fucking
The Hunter helicopter.
the Hunter helicopter, the jets. I want all that stuff. And GTA 4 has nada, zilch,
Yeah,
nothing.
But
I
but
suppose-
funny you should say that. I do know of who you speak of. I played through
Yeah.
GTA 4 and finished it. It didn't do a whole lot for me, but I know exactly who you're speaking of.
terrible driving mechanics too.
Which one?
Craig, you're on the wrong episode. It's NPCs.
Yeah.
So tell us, what is it about
Well, you see, like
the bowling loving cousin?
Yeah, so for me, like GTA 4 is probably one of the darker storylines in GTA, and he is the kind of comedic value that kind of keeps the game not in this depressing phase.
Well, because your main character has a really dark background.
His background is hard. Yeah, so like he comes from like war-torn Yugoslavia.
Yeah.
You know, raised in a quite a bad background, basically. You know, I don't think there's any really too many light-hearted background stories in GTA in general, but that is a particularly dark one. And Nico Bellic, like he stays back, fights in the war. Roman goes off to live the American dream. And, you know, like, while, like, the war is raging and he's trying to get, you know, Nico to come over, you know, he's selling him all these stories of the American dream that he's living, you know. He's, like, got a different woman at home every night, and he's, you know, he's built successful businesses and he's doing quite well. And then Nico finally gets the chance to come over to Liberty City, and it's just, none of it's true at all. But he just has this kind of, like, charm and kind of, like, charisma about him that, like, you don't even care that he was bullshitting about all of this, you know. He's
a nice guy.
He's a glass half full type of guy
Nice.
in a dreadful city filled of just, you know, quite high end criminals, you know.
And like Liberty City as a city, even by design, of those we're talking about, like Vice City, San Andreas, and what's it called in 5?
Los Santos.
Los Santos. Of all of them, Liberty City is my least favorite because it is so.
There's
gritty.
the skyscrapers and there's nothing else.
It's gritty and it's like, it's really grim.
Yeah, no, it's super grim, but I always thought it was super like real in a sense, you know. Like it was you know, the whole story in general, like it's just you know, Nico Bellic's story is one of just pure revenge, and you know, regardless of where Roman, you know, kind of came in, Nico Bellic was always going to be going down the route of crime, but every kind of bad habit that Roman has kind of shapes Nico's story and puts him on the path of his revenge. You know, he's after these two guys who betrayed him back in the Yugoslavian war, and all of the criminal ties that Nico ends up getting are through Roman. He kind of shapes him along that path, and Roman ends up being this huge pivotal character towards the end, where it has like it's got alternate endings.
Okay.
And if you're playing as Nico, and well, you are playing as Nico, when you're playing as Nico, you get this choice to kind of like take a deal with the people that fecked you over, and kind of cash out, and hopefully live a quiet life after that, or you can go down the pure revenge mode. And revenge is where it's fun, obviously, in that game.
Yeah.
And if you pick revenge, Roman stays alive. Spoiler alerts. But if you pick deal, Roman gets killed on his wedding day and leaves behind his pregnant wife. So it's just a horribly like depressive thing if you choose to let Roman go, which you shouldn't do in this game. But yeah, that for me, he's just like this hilarious kind of character, and like what I said, it was a very gritty story. You know, you just commit some crime, pistol whip someone, steal their car, and he'd be like, "Hey, cousin, you want to come bowling?" And I was like, "Yeah,
I do.
I need some bowling after that. I need to relax." So yeah, he's just one of those guys that I just think he's kind of hilarious, and
in that world, he's a nice leveler.
Yeah, he really does balance it out. Because like, I suppose like GTA in general has some exceptionally memorable characters and non-playable ones.
But in fairness, there are very, well, I'm not saying there are very few. I think GTA 4 has the fewest characters, per se, in terms of like Vice City's got a lot of great like wacky characters. San Andreas has got fucking tons of wacky characters. And Liberty City, like, you know, it's a much older game, but there's some, you know, interesting characters in that. Whereas GTA 4... it's probably one of like the more serious
it's
things.
quite, yeah.
So everybody is like it's a Grand Theft Auto game, so it still has all that fun of, you know, the violence and the whatever else. But the whole time I was playing it, and like, that's probably why I didn't enjoy it, because I was expecting this like fun romp where I rob banks and everyone's funny. I was like, oh, there's a lot of heavy, there's a lot of heavy shit in here. Like so I can see why he's important. Craig.
Okay, yeah. In the spirit of Zelda,
Yes.
So I was thinking of characters that I would love to, you know, play as, or just who would be great in the game. And the one I got thinking of was, of all the kind of sidekicks that Link has in the courses of the game, most of them are fairies and they're rubbish. They just go, "Hey, listen," and then annoy you with just some piece of advice. But I think from Twilight Princess, Midna was the one who actually had a bit of use. Midna was essentially like Princess Zelda. You didn't know this at the time, but like the Twilight version of Zelda transformed into a kind of a smallish kind of monster creature. But she had all these great and wacky powers. One was when because you spend some of the game as a wolf, and while you're a wolf, she rides on top of you, and she can use this long arm thing to kind of grab stuff and fight. So in a way, you've got like a handy companion right from the get-go. But another thing that she could do, and I always thought it was amazing, and maybe this isn't even in the game, but it's how I always thought of it, And so anytime I envision this game, I always imagine that, because Link is always getting loads of different weapons in all his different adventures, and I'm always thinking to myself, where is he storing these things? You know, like clearly he just has a sword and shield. Where is the boomerang? Where is the giant fucking hammer? Where is all this stuff? It's clearly not on his person, you know? Whereas Midna has the ability to teleport to anything into a kind of alternate dimension. So I'm always just like, okay, excellent. Anytime I equip my hook shot, that's Midna like bringing it into existence for me.
You have narratively made a valid reason for why they're never on Link through this character.
Yeah, but like, because the way, because she would like, there would always these be moments where there's like a pillar blocking your way, and Midna would literally just grab it and teleport it out of there, or just send it to a nothing dimension or whatever. And I'm like, that's where all your weapons are. They're all stored in this nothing dimension.
Like
so in a cool anime kind of battle-esque sequence, Link walks into a battle, just kind of raises his arms, and all the stuff kind of appears in his hand from Midna through this alternate dimension. And no matter what he picks, like he can be using his sword and shield to fight, but like halfway through he gets disarmed, and then all of a sudden he puts his hands up and two different weapons appear there, you know?
Yeah.
I'm like, that is badass. That's not actually in the game, but like that's
but
how I envision that would be how it
I
would
just have this
go
vision
down.
of like this dude in this nothing dimension who's like trying to get his lawn perfect, and just random shit keeps falling down from like, you know, like that's blocking your path in the real dimension. He's like, fucking not again, like, you know.
Just because you've this massive arsenal, because Link is the hero of time, but his best abilities are the weapons themselves. You know, he's just a guy doing stuff.
He's just able
but
to wield
every
them.
one of his weapons always has this magical or supernatural ability, like a boomerang that can fire a tornado, or, you know, a bow that can shoot light or fire or ice or whatever that is. So it just always seemed very cool to me if he could just constantly switch on the fly and just make him a better warrior. So Midna, I thought, was just the ultimate NPC, like
to facilitate
character to facilitate my wacky vision of Link.
Yeah, I love it. A good choice, a great choice, in fact.
I buy it as well. Like, it sounds like that makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
it really does make perfect
If
sense.
I ever play Twilight Princess, the entire time I'm playing, I'm like, oh, that's pretty dope. That's
Thanks,
pretty cool.
But you won't ever see that happen. But just know
Just think
off
about
screen
it.
that's what's happening when you switch your weapons. Yeah.
Very good. I'm just trying to find my my notes for my characters, which I do not have, but I remember them. I remember my NPCs. So one of the ones I'm going to go for, just because they were, for me growing up as a person who was, let's say, a backseat gamer for these games, in their first instances, I'm going to talk about Metal Gear Solids. I loved Otacon as a just a background character. I thought, like, in the first one, where he wets himself and he goes into the locker. I
love that.
I was a pretty young kid, so like toilet humor was really up my street. So I was like, ha, that guy pissed himself. I love him. He's hilarious. Like, that was my initial like thought about Otacon. But as the games progressed, you know, like, because he had that kind of, he was that funny comedy relief because he's pathetic in the first one, and in the second one he's still he's still quite pathetic, but he's got a really good, like, the whole thing with the story of his, like, his stepsister, Emma or whatever, and you know, you go through that game and like he's got Otacon's got his own narrative. He's got a reason for doing all the things that he's doing, and it makes him such an interesting character. So those who haven't played Metal Gear, he's like a scientist kind of guy who ends up helping Snake and whatever the fucking team he's on is called. I don't know what goes on really most of the time in that game. But so he ends up being like the guy in the chair essentially for a lot of it. And I loved how he was in 2 because he had a real, like, proper character, and you're there trying to save his sister, and he's just the guy in the chair, and the whole time he's like, oh, Snake, you gotta save her, like, she means so much to me. And because I loved him, or Raiden, because it's Raiden, it's not actually playing as Snake. It's a fucking stupid thing about that game. Ruining a good opportunity. But you're playing as Raiden, and you're trying to save this girl who's actually quite annoying to save in the game because she's useless. She can't swim.
She's Otacon's sister.
Yeah. So she's only going to get worse. But because I loved Otacon so much coming into this game, I really wanted to save his sister because I was like, oh, like it's really having an effect on him because he doesn't know her that well. They're from like different fathers, and he just wants to like do right by her because it's like he's all she has left, and they don't really get on, but he's trying to make amends. If it's like a kind of like classic movie type scenario, and the whole time you're playing through, you're going to save him, and it's, you know, spoilers, it's all tragic in the end, and you've kind of got to move on from that. And then in like Metal Gear Solid, he's not in 3, but in Metal Gear Solid 4, like he's come up with all this new tech, and he's quite an interesting character in 4. Like he's far more developed, and he's a lot cooler. I think he's kind of, I mean, he's not cool. But he's a lot cooler than he has
doesn't cry as often. Like his cry to action ratio is down. In 1 and 2, he's crying for over half of his like dialogue.
His thing.
You know?
Yeah. But another thing about him is that he has the famous, like the when you die in Metal Gear Solid, the snake, like that.
Well, they all have that.
Yeah, but his one I think was always the best. I love this one because it's so
I
like.
also think his one was the
because
best.
his one was so like, I love that guy. I can't believe he's dead type thing, So his one had the most feel to it. But I loved him in 4, and the cool thing about having him in 4 was he actually felt like a proper sidekick because you had the little he was speaking to you through this like remote controlled robot on wheels that came around.
It looked like a camcorder, but had
on wheels.
A couple of legs.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty cute design. I quite liked it. But he was definitely a sidekick, and he would use that thing to like open certain doors or jam certain things. So you actually felt like he was there doing shit for the first time, as opposed to just being a whiny little shit on your codex the entire time. But I loved him. I thought he was great, like a really just different. And I think I say he was a really great character. Really young Darren thought it was hilarious that he pissed his pants. And from that point on, I just followed him, I guess. I was like, I'm in this till the end, Otacon.
But as a young kid, you're supposed to hate someone who pisses their pants, right? Or
so
could you kind of
aspire to be him?
This guy?
Oh yeah, I could aspire. I had problems of my own at the time, Craig, and I was like, I could write. No, I think I loved him because he was comic relief. It wasn't that I was like, I respect this guy. I definitely didn't.
Okay.
But I think I love the fact that they put this type of character in there, and he was so pathetic, but ends up being like hugely integral to the story. That like he's a guy that you grow with throughout the story. He's he has a bit of an arc himself and stuff. And especially like I think my favorite Otacon, although it was his whiniest, was in 2. I think him having that like proper background and protecting him of his sister. I was like, there's a story within a story here. And I'm on board. Do you know what I mean? I really enjoyed it. So yeah, he definitely made my list.
Quick question. Did you replay the mission to try and shoot Vamp in the head before he could stab Emma?
Yes. All the time. And it's one of those things, it's like I've seen lots of people play certain games. Like I saw a clip recently and someone's playing I think it's The Last of Us Part 1. And you walk
exactly
into a room
about,
and there's a scientist or a doctor or someone who gets attacked by a clicker straight away. And I watched this guy do reset the mission over and over and over again to try and figure out a way that he could save this, because he just, for whatever reason, this guy just really wanted to save this random NPC. But I had that same feeling because when it first happened, I thought, oh crap, game over. I was like, oh, I done fudged it. That was really hard, game over. And when I realized that this is actually how it goes, I was like, is it how it goes? Like, can you save her?
In Metal Gear Solid 1, they got you with that same scenario where you're being tortured, and if you give up, Meryl dies. But if you survive the torture, she survives.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe this was the same thing.
And the game's wacky enough because you have all of the kind of crazy things that happened in the first one with Psycho Mantis, and like they were just kind of playing with you and toying with you, and I was like, oh man, but there must be a way, because I mean I've been playing I think the part of me that was really annoyed was that you literally like saving her, Kev, is the most frustrating gameplay because she's useless and you gotta take her into water and hope that and it's that classic thing where I was at an age playing that game where I hated underwater missions because you had the breath bar and it was always very stressful to get from A to B, and she'd be on your back with this tiny oxygen bar when you're going underwater, and anytime she get out she's real whiny and she's real complaining and she can't do this, she's got asthma, she's got all these problems, and you're just like, fuck's sake, she's useless. But I still, and because I tried so hard, when I got to the point where she does get stabbed by Vamp, I was like, nah. They did not make me work this hard just to kill her at the end of all this. Yeah. But you can't save her. But yeah, Otacon was great because I think he was a character who I didn't expect to be developed in the way that he was, but I appreciated that he was, and I quite enjoyed. I used to all the time as well, especially in the first one. You could just keep calling people, on the codex to get tips. But if you call them too many times, they'd always get annoyed. But Otacon was too nice to get annoyed. Whereas the colonel would be like, Snake, you got a mission to do. Stop phoning me, blah, blah, blah. You'd call Otacon a couple of times like, Snake, are you sure did you mean to call me? Okay, well, I don't really know what it is. Like, he's just so polite and nice all the time. I was like, I respect you, Otacon. You're a nice dude. But that'd be my one. You got another one for us, Kev?
Yes. So one I was thinking of is... I suppose based on a historical character in Assassin's Creed, Leonardo da Vinci. And I think I kind of brought this up before on a similar one, but like in a previous topic we were having. But that for me, when like real life historical effect, like instances get like melded in with
a fantasy world. Yeah.
I love that sort of shit. Like anytime there's any like real callbacks to historical events, I'm like, this just makes the game so much more real for me. And to give him a personality that we can never know it was kind of true or false was just a whole like eye-opening experience, like you could get to really almost get to know him in a sense, and you know, they play him as a bit of a cheeky chappy, you know, like he's there to help you along, guide you along.
And Tony Stark of
that's why I always
know?
looked at it like he's this like master technician and inventor, and you know, he's a bit of crack as well. Like, you know, when he fixes the hidden blades at first for Ezio, which is like one of their kind of first interactions when they get involved together, and he fixes the hidden blade, and like Ezio's asleep in the corner, and he's like, gotta call you over, man, gotta chop your finger off, like just pure fucking with them, even though he's already like come up with a way of not having to give that sacrifice. But he makes Ezio put his finger on the table, grabs the cleaver and slams it down beside him. It's like, you evil man. It just is so funny to see him do it. And then like as the game like progresses, they incorporate, you know, like his famous sketches for invention,
for like blimps
like,
and flying.
And like you get to actually use like his sketch for a hang glider. And it's, you know, like he has that eureka moment as well when like he's like, oh, I can't do this, and he throws all the designs into the fire, and like the fire makes a piece of the paper rise, and he's like, I got it.
I'd forgotten all about that. But those are some great scenes.
It's just some clever detailing, and you know, like, and it goes along when they get to like Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. You know, like he's not that he's ever really officially part of the Assassin's Creed, but he's designing weaponry for all of the apprentices in it, so he might as well be. And just an all around like top character to have
and it's funny, after I played that game, and anytime someone mentioned Da Vinci for whatever thing that it came up in conversation, I was like, I knew that guy. But like, not that I knew him personally, but like I have a picture of what that guy's, you know, because you talk about like artists or sculptors, like I have no idea what Michelangelo was like, but anytime someone mentions Da Vinci, I was like, oh yeah, that kind of cheeky little funny fella. I was like, wait, no, that's not actually real, Darren. I was like, you don't know that. Yeah, that was a great addition. I like that. I love that that kind of duo, like the really smart, intelligent inventor and the willing tester, essentially, to be and it just always works out well, and like you know, it's always a good you know, Ezio being, I mean, I think unarguably the greatest of the Assassin's Creed characters. Like they have such a good back and forth.
Arguably, I would say. As I will argue with you.
All right, we'll save that for another episode, Craig. We've only got so much time. Okay, sorry. He is arguably
there you go.
Best assassin. My apologies. Anything else to add on?
Well, I suppose as the game goes on, I don't know if this is like something that's you know, kind of seen in, or kind of remembered in Assassin's Creed 3, but there's a moment where Connor, I think Connor's the assassin in Assassin's Creed 3, and he's got his version of a Da Vinci who's trying to, you know, help him with, you know, updating his tech basically, and they try and fail to make a flying machine based off of like Da Vinci's original designs, and I was just like, there you go, bringing them back in, you know, 400 or 500 years later, whatever it was. It was like keeping the spirit of him alive. But he's just like, I just think he's just an awesome like bit of real life history mixed into
that crossover is a lot of fun.
Yeah, makes you want to learn the character, and then you go see his work in the museum, and you start quoting some Assassin's Creed logic to the girlfriend beside you, and she's like, "What are you talking about?"
People actually tested his flying machine, and it worked if you could get enough smoke to help it. I was like, "The fuck are you talking about?" Like, none of that's true.
We had a moment like that, myself and Tara, actually, like in Milan, where we went to like a museum that has a lot of his original sketches. I think it's the it's the one that has the most of them. I'd love to be able to remember the name, but it's gone for me. But we were going through, and I was just like, I think you could have gotten more out of that Da Vinci. You know, you definitely could have just used that smoke to keep him up there, because like that was obviously just all for the game. And I was just looking at it, just being like, I think we could have used to see that one in the game as well, because it was just so gas to forget that this isn't real, Kevin. You know, and I was explaining it to Tara as well as we were walking along. I was being like, that's in the game. That's in the game. They
walking by and like, do you know that Ezio, one of the most successful assassins of Assassin's Creed, actually flew this? It's like, Kevin, what the fuck are you talking about?
And you see buildings as well when you're actually in like Milan. There are buildings that are also in the game, and every time we went by one, I was like, I actually climbed that before. I don't think I'd realised, but I've been up there. And
but that's and I know we're going off topic here, but that's the fascinating thing about Assassin's Creed games is their attention to detail for the worlds that they've built. Because one of the facts that I love is that, now I don't know how much of it they used, but when Notre Dame burnt down, they actually got in contact with the Assassin's Creed team who made the game, Ubisoft, to see if they could look at or borrow their blueprint designs, whatever they put together for this. They're like their historical research, because in the rebuilding of it now, they want to have it as close to as it was when it was originally built, as opposed to the modified version they had before it burnt down. And I was like, that's pretty dope. Imagine putting all the time and effort into it, so much so that you actually become a reason this thing can be saved or made better.
The recognition of it's phenomenal. Yeah, it's very cool.
Craig, who else you got? More Zelda?
No, I wanted to open with Zelda, but I'll just have one character per franchise type of thing, And Zelda, in this game there'll be loads of characters. I think they're really stepping it up. But again, that's off topic. So the next character I'm going to choose is from the Mass Effect series. And it was a toss up of two, because I love two of them so much. Morden is one of my favorite guys, just because of how he just explains everything so quickly, and you can really just feel the fucking intelligence coming off him as he speaks to you, But it's got to go to Thane Krios, who is very much the assassin version of Morden. He'll be talking to you while just cleaning his guns, all cold and sinister, and you'll talk to him about a particular mission, and he'll just look up and replay the events of the mission in his mind. He'll be like, 2 barrels, 1 opponent. Take the shot. And he's just reliving the moment as he's talking to you, and you can just see it in his head, because his race can, when they look back on memories, they relive the memories. So watching this guy go through that kind of traumatic experience every single time you talk to him was always really cool to look at. But as well, because other than getting to know him, on a mission, he didn't say much at all. He was just a cold, calculated killer, and you're like, man, this guy's cool. You can't, his eyes are so black. He's just this cold-blooded killer. But then when you get to know him, you find out he has a son and he has cancer and shit, and you're like, oh my god, he's just a normal guy, but he's cool as shit.
Yeah. And great is that the fact that he's the assassin mercenary type character as well, that Sonic killer. It's funny that because when I was coming with my NPC list, those are the exact two that I pitted against each other, being who did I prefer? But Morden won that battle for me.
I mean, they're both great. They're both my two favorite Mass Effect characters.
Yes,
Commander Shepard including. But I had to pick Thane, because he's pretty much absent from the third game because he's dying of cancer. But if he survives, and if you do meet him, he shows up for just one mission for only about 10 minutes. But that 10 minutes is absolutely spectacular, of him just mowing down guys and saving you from another assassin. So he's going hand to hand with an assassin who's trying to kill Shepard, who would annihilate Shepard, no problem. But once Thane jumps in, they're evenly matched. And you're like, oh shit, look at him taking him on. He's cancer and everything.
Was the this is going to be such an obscure reference, but the end of 2 or the end of 3, when you're choosing where to send everybody on the last mission, there's a vent that someone has to go through that they say will almost definitely kill them.
I sent Tally and she managed fine.
So I sent
as an engineer.
But is that in 2 or 3?
That's 2. That's the suicide mission.
So I sent Thane into that, and he didn't make it. But I sent him in because it was the lowest chance of survival, and I was like, well, he's dying anyway. But when you have that chat, there's that understanding that he has as well. When you're giving it to people, he's like, I understand Shepard. I was like, of course you do, Thane. You're the coolest guy here.
He would get it. He'd no regrets.
So that's such a pity, because I never got, because the save file continues over to the next game. So when I played Mass Effect 3, Thane was dead, so I never got that.
He's not in Mass Effect 3 a lot, but his moments were very cleverly chosen. They clearly went, we have a very good character here. Let's give him a nice crescendo to go out on.
Just what he needs. Let's not over saturate the fans with this.
But he's not one of those characters that's constantly in it. Even in Mass Effect 2, he's one of the last characters who's from recruit.
Yeah.
So he's kind of just that extra guy for that extra flavor.
He's the Vincent Valentine of Final Fantasy.
Exactly.
The guy that
he's
comes
the
at the
cool
end,
character
the cool
that
guy.
You don't want to have too much depth, because the stuff you assume based on just looking at him is awesome.
It's enough. Yeah. That's better than the actual story could possibly be.
Which is very good. I'll give him that. But yeah, Thane Krios is my Mass Effect character over Morden.
So seeing as we're on the Mass Effect buzz, I didn't actually put Morden down for this, but I mean, I highly consider him. I think for me, Morden, that the scientist, and the part that I loved the most was just how, I mean, you talk about Thane being cold and callous. Morden had this entirely different.
Oh, he did, yeah.
Different kind of cold and callousness that was, I think, almost worse than Thane's. The fact that he only
Morden
cared
could
about
smile
the science
and laugh about it while talking about mass genocide.
Yeah, because he, in the Mass Effect scene where there's a point where you can choose to fix the genophage, isn't that what it's called, against the Krogans. And I remember talking to Morden, and I was like, you can like talk to people, what do they think, blah, 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 blah. And like, there's the part of me that's like, well, I don't want a whole race to just slowly die. But Morden is so just facts about it. And he's like, well, Shepard, you know, they are monsters. They are blah, blah, blah. They are very violent. And
that's a pretty good impression.
Thank you. But and the whole time I was watching going like, damn, this guy is cold, but like he's making the decisions, you know? Yeah. So when it came to like choosing because Morden was my favorite right up to that point, and you get the chance to choose, like, you know, to ask Morden to cure the genophage or not, I was like, oh man, this guy's talking a lot of sense to me, and I've loved him all the way up to this point. I was like, okay, Morden, I'll take your word for it. We're not going to cure the genophage. And I did. Like, I just let the Krogan, you know, in the story die.
Well, you didn't cure the genophage?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, I did, and it was Morden's idea to do it. So maybe his mind changes in the third game. In the second game, he's all about keeping the genophage on.
Yes.
But in the third game, his arguments definitely lean more towards
saving them. So
yeah.
maybe when it came to my playthrough in the third, I was remembering like old cold Morden, who was like, old Morden wouldn't have saved them. Like, so you're not going to save them. Yeah, he was great though. But like that, in terms of, you had an assassin whose whole character was based off being this cold, calculated, I'll just do the kill. But even though they literally, that was the guy, they made this other guy who was just a scientist, but he was colder and even more sinister in ways than Thane was, because I was like, this guy just cares about the science. There is no morality, there is no emotion, it's just pure facts. Yeah. And I was like, that creates a very scary character, like, you know. And the fact that he was kind of like funny to listen to, he had the kind of funny, I'll talk real fast, Shepard, and I was like, oh, I can kind of laugh at him, but everything he's saying is fucking dark, like, you know. Great character.
Is your experience of the character the same? Because like, do you?
No,
because
I always
played it differently.
I don't go Renegade. I go Paragon, and Morden seemed like a very likable character to me. Like he definitely talks fast and he can be cold, but by the third game especially, like he has turned it around. Like he'll always do the good as opposed to the bad, you know, and he even has like a lot of nice jokes and songs he'd even sing and stuff like that. So Darren's experience with Morden is quite different from my experience with Morden.
I went full Renegade.
I was quite the good guy, like, you know.
And do you ever play it differently?
Not me. I always play a character how I envision them to behave. So enough. I'm never Paragon or Renegade.
Go back and
I just act based on how I think the character would act in that sequence. So I have no problem punching a reporter in the face, you know, but I'm generally going Paragon, like, you know.
But it's fun, like, I mean, the reason I played Renegade, because I always play the good guy, the reason I played Renegade was just because I made him look really, really ugly. And the scarring of the Renegade type as the game went on actually improved how my character looked. But it did open up a lot of doors in terms of like, oh man, Shepard's, you know, and I love that. I was like, this is what it would take. Some no nonsense, I don't give a shit about anybody type of person to save the universe in the situation that it was in. That's the kind of person it would take. You know, some guy being like, please and thank you, or may I? Like, that's not going to get anything done. But my Shepard, who didn't give a shit about anything. Like, the thing was, I was mean to my entire crew as well. Like, because you had all these renegade things you could just say. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to insult fucking Jacob. Don't give a shit about Jacob and Tally. She could fuck herself. And I was like, it was such a, like, for me, who always played the nice guy, I had like, and I've never, I haven't replayed it since. And if I did, I would have to go full Renegade again, because to me, that has to be the Mass Effect experience. Right? You know, because I play that way. I don't want to experience it any other way.
Because that's how Shepard is for you.
Yeah. He's an asshole. He's a grade A asshole who gets the job done. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty badass. Like, you know? So yeah, I'd go for him. But in terms of actual characters, you know, because Morden wasn't on my list. Well, I'll do one real quickly as kind of like an honorable mention before I swing it back to you, Kev. And now it'll be remiss of me not to bring up Kingdom Hearts. This will be very quickly in passing, Craig, I promise. I promise. So I loved as a kid, because you guys seen the episode of The Simpsons where the two gangs are fighting in the front lawn. And there's the one guy in the white suit who hasn't done anything. And Homer's like, but Marge, the guy, he's going to do something cool, I know it. So Mickey Mouse through Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 was that character for me, because he was this fly-in. He's a Keyblade master. He's like in the first game, he's only in it at the end, essentially. And in the second game, you're trying to find him for so long, and you always see him, and he's got like the dark cloak on. He's the guy with the Keyblade. I'm like, man, it's like, you know, when I first saw him fight, it brought me as much joy as seeing Yoda take out the lightsaber to fight Count Dooku. Yeah. That's what I got from Mickey Mouse and Kingdom Hearts. I was like, I'm finally gonna get to see him fight. This is great. So I loved him and like he's Mickey Mouse as well. So it's like we're the promise ring. We gotta save the world, Sora. So I quite enjoyed that. I was like just palling around with like Mickey Mouse through this like wacky game as well. So just as an honorable mention, I kind of have to give it to Mickey, because he pals around with your party, but you never play as him. So he's like a true NPC.
If you lost the battle in Kingdom Hearts 2 for whatever reason, you could replay as Mickey and beat the boss. Did you not do that?
You could do a thing until I think it was like the character's health would recharge while you're playing as Mickey until they're like able to revive. Yes, I did do that.
It happened to me just one time, and I could never figure out why it happened or what was going on. But I remember just playing as Mickey and being like, okay, cool. He's way more powerful than any of my guys. And then I was able to beat the boss. But otherwise, I would have lost.
And it's cool because I think it is a rare thing that happens in the game. But it happened for me at such an intense moment when he did. And that's what I mean, because he come in and he's amazing to play as. Now, does he fall under the NPC? I think he's like, it's a fun thing that he does. But I think he's a true, like, NPC. It's not really a character you play as in Kingdom Hearts 1 or 2. Mm-hmm. But that happened at such an intense, like, it was like a big boss fight against Demix. It's a really hard fight. You've got very limited time to, like, beat him. And then you go straight into another boss fight after that. And I was like, oh, this is a lot of pressure. I don't know. And then I died. I was like, oh, I gotta go back and do all that again. And then you get you see the Mickey keychain thing come out, and Mickey's like, I got you, Sora. And like he goes on, you do the fight. I was like, nah, that was, I needed it. Do you know what I mean? I needed it so badly, like not to have to do a load game or a continue. Yeah. And I was like, that was amazing, like, And he's like crazy. He's like, it's like Yoda fighting Count Dooku. He's got these like wild movesets, And I was like,
jumping all over the place,
hopping around like a madman.
Yeah, it was great. So Kev, on to you. You got any more for us?
Yeah. So there was one like kind of game I wanted to mention in that like it has some of my favorite NPC interactions because like you play a bigger like kind of open world game, they run a bit stale quite after a while, and you might get like the same 3 sentences over and over again. But I've been playing a bit of South Park: The Stick of Truth over the last few days or last few weeks, and that is a game that like every like scene I'm in, every new area I'm exploring, I will exhaust the NPCs because I want the content because it's so funny.
They often have those extra lines.
Perfect lines. Yeah, like there's like one of my favorite aspects is like when you're at the base camp, like Cartman's base camp, and you're just going around talking to, could be anyone, like Scott Malkinson's there or whatever, and like the first 3 sentences are quite on theme for the game that they're playing, and then when he's quite clearly run out of like the sentence he's able to use, he goes, dude, no, Cartman says I have to keep to the script. So like a little break of the fourth wall there, which I love, and like I'm trying to do that for each and every like characters that I run into, because like I found it like Hogwarts Legacy, for example, I didn't want to talk to a lot of people after a point because you were just hearing the same thing
big time
over and over again. But with this, every line is a joke, and it's just so worth
hearing. The best part of both those games, and I much prefer the second one because they actually have decent gameplay, because the first one is very rough,
I couldn't play through I never finished the first one.
Once you got to Canada, I gave up because I was like, okay, clearly here is where it's scaled too dramatically and you have to just buy a load of new weapons, otherwise you're one-shotted instantly. And I was like, they haven't scaled this very well at all. And it was always just your character and one other sidekick. And like you've like 12 sidekicks, and I was like, I want them all, I just want to use them all. But in the second game, every single fight you get into, you pick your team for that fight.
Okay.
So you're switching constantly.
Yeah. And
because you have a party of 4 and there's over 12 playable characters, you never see all the dialogue, because if you rotate a lot, like Craig will start like yelling at Cartman during a fight, and you wouldn't have got that if you had Kenny and fucking Stan in your team, Perfect. So because there's 12 playable, you have 4 in your party at once for each fight. You could have a different party in every single battle, so they're constantly yelling out different lines, and you just like, you get that sense of like every random fight isn't random, it's like part of the show, it's part of the episode, part of the story.
And I guess for them, for the guys, Matt and Trey, who write South Park and we're like very obviously writing the dialogue and script for this game, it must be so fun to like write NPCs and to break that fourth wall and to throw jokes in, like a kind of a fresh take on what they normally do. But I love that, like, just like hassling an NPC until they break, like, I love that.
Wait, quick question. Which NPC did you mention?
It was a catch-all, basically. It's like I'm trying.
Non-playable characters in South Park is Kev's second choice.
Yeah, I suppose my favorite interaction I think that I've had so far is with Al Gore. So they squeezed everyone. That's like, it feels like every South Park episode that has like
ever been.
They've just pushed it on.
It's great, because especially if you're a fan, the Easter eggs are just incredible.
That's what it is.
There must be one for every episode.
I have never explored a universe I like to this level, to extent. Like, I want to uncover everything and chat to as much of the characters as possible, just so I can experience a very, very long episode of South Park, basically, because it's just so well done.
And you could never, write NPC dialogue to infinity.
Yeah.
So it's so nice to play a game where they've actually put the effort in to say, we'll give them a couple of extra hits. Do you know what I mean? It's not going to be the case where I'm going to talk to like this person. They'll say one line, and then the next 2 lines are the same. It's like, no, we're going to, if they want, and it's like that thing I talked about with Red Dead Redemption, where you put all this effort into developing these like scenes at the campsite that you could play and never experience. It's the same for South Park. If you're not interested in just like hammering the button on the NPCs, you're never going to get this. But that didn't stop them from putting it in there, and I love that. It's like, we're still going to put the work in here. Like, yeah. What about you, Craig?
Just before I go on to that, if you do continue playing that game, definitely go to the fractured butthole.
Yes.
So it's actually cool.
Lauren fucking loves the name of that game because I was playing on the Switch there like a couple of months ago.
It's amazing how you can get away with cursing technically.
Yeah. She's like, it's like, what's it called? I was like, the fractured butthole. She was like, oh, that's a weird name. And then I just shouted to her like to read it on the screen, and she was like, the fractured butthole. That's amazing. And I was like, it is. It's pretty good. Like, that's pretty smart.
Sorry, my next choice. Let me see. What was I going to pick? I had to base it off because we did an episode recently on our favorite like video game characters, and I realized 2 of mine were technically NPCs because you don't get to play them. So I'm like, I have to mention one here. So I'm going to go with Star Wolf. Just because that's Wolf O'Donnell, and I love the Star Fox series. And again, I always like imagine NPCs the way I did with Midna and the way I did with the other ones is that I always just imagine them in their own game, in their own world when the main character is off and they're off screen. I'm always just thinking about what would they be doing. And for me, Star Wolf is a perfect example of, because he also has a team of misfits, and I'm just like, but they've been beaten by Star Fox so many times. So I'd love a game to just kind of open up with them. And very much like Cowboy Bebop, I don't know if that anime series, but they're just on their spaceship. They're all, the 3 guys are gathered around like a can of tomatoes. There's only 1 tomato left, and they're just kind of staring into it, and they're just with each one of them has a fork, and they're ready to lunge at like they've just been beaten by Star Fox so many times that they're on their spaceship, and just the hopes
like
are down
in a group counseling session. So tell me, how does it feel to keep losing, guys?
So it very much would be a game where it acknowledges Star Fox and that they're the better team, and that they keep winning. So Star Wolf begins, and they're really down in the dumps, and they're just like, here, we just need a couple of missions, we need a couple of bounty jobs to go our way. And then the team starts to really come together because they've been betrayed. I don't know if anyone played Star Fox Assault, but in the original game, they have Pigma on the team. And he eventually goes off and leaves, and then Andrew Oinkeny goes off and leaves as well and joins his big empire. So there's only Star Wolf and Leon from the original core team, and then they get this guy Panther in, and he's the 3rd member, but there's still only 3 guys. How can these 3 guys defeat the 4 Lilat Star Fox guys?
I don't know if Slippy's worth anything from that.
He's still, he can man a turret, he can shoot stuff down, but I'd love a Star Wolf game where it's just mission based like Star Fox, except the whole game they're trying to prove that no, they're just as good as Star Fox.
Yeah.
And eventually they'll do a mission where the Star Fox team are trying to gun down a bunch of bad guys, but they want to take them down first. So you're flying in, shooting down the bad guys, trying to just get a higher score than Star Fox. And it's a massive moment for them when they get 1 extra vehicle shot down or something like that. They're like, we did it, we beat you guys,
The one time.
Their slow resurgence. So I'd love to see a video game with Star Wolf and his team just slowly rebuilding from
just trying to pick themselves up.
Yeah,
off
they
the
had
bottom
absolutely
of the table,
nothing. But I'd love to see, because Leon is a chameleon, so that's his kind of animal looking character. So it'd be great if he developed a kind of stealth technology on his ship, because the whole chameleon thing, and you've your Panther who can just be
real fast.
His ship just has claws and they look and rip into it or something like that.
Okay, you were good with the chameleon stealth stuff. Yeah. You lost me.
With Panther, I was like, what can we do? I was
like, maybe he could go fast. You're like, no, the ship has claws.
He's like, wouldn't it be cool? A spaceship that could literally grab onto another ship and rip it apart, and then the pilot just jumps in and beats the shit out of you. Yeah. That could be pretty cool.
You're honest.
I can get back.
I'm just
on
picturing
this.
MODOK or something with these little
claws.
Yeah.
That's how the cool bad guys always like to invade. They attack, they rip open the ship, they go in, and then they kill everyone. So Star Wolf, they're not the nicest guys. So at the end of the day,
just because you're
they're trying to get the top
guy,
score, but they're still killing innocent people.
Just to beat the team.
It's still high five moments all around.
We did it, with carnage and screams and flames all around them. We're like, yeah, we did it, boys.
So I just love Nintendo to do that for the next Star Fox game. Just make it Star Wolf and have them just down in the dumps. Only way is up, you know.
And it's an interesting concept for them as well, because although Starwolf comes across as the very cool and, you know, dark villain, that would be a really fun route to go. He's just trying to pick the team up, like, you know, come on, guys.
They just lost so many. They've been betrayed by Pigma, betrayed by Oinkany, betrayed by Andros and Venom. You know, they haven't been able to catch a break.
Yeah. No, look, I love that. That's a great shout, actually. That's a great shout. For my next one, I think this is probably my favorite NPC. I've got another honorable mention that if we have time for, I'll go to, but I'll go into this one because I love it, or I love him. Mimir from God of War.
Nice. That's a great shout.
Because all he does is tell you the best stories.
Yeah.
The best stories about all this. It's Norse mythology, right? Yeah. Like, one of my favorite things about that game was to just go around on my sled. Like, we're talking about Ragnarok now because he did it. Was he in the first God of War? Yes, of course. So he tells you stories in the first God of War, but it's never as often as, like, you can't shut him up in Ragnarok sometimes. But there's nothing. Sometimes I'd be like, you know, and I'm just going around and going to go kill these guys and collect this collectible or whatever. And then Mimir would start telling a story. I'm like, oh, okay. So put the controller down, because, you know, sometimes when you get too far, it's like that thing that you love in Last of Us, where people will come back to a conversation and stop a conversation. If you get into close to a fight and Mimir's telling a story, Kratos comes in and he goes, enough, you know, boy, draw your weapon, all that kind of stuff to stop it. And then sometimes Mimir will be like, or like Atreus will be like, Mimir, weren't you telling a story? But I haven't got time for all that mismatch. If Mimir starts telling a story, I like pull over, you know, on the sled with the wolves, and I'll sit down and be like, I love this, because I'm a big fan of Norse mythology anyway, and all that kind of stuff. It's so wacky, but it's so cool. I love like the show Vikings, and you hear a lot of like Odin and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, this is great. And just sitting here and have this guy just like tell you like literal bedtime stories. It's so fascinating,
and he has like a perfect accent for it as well. Yeah. Like it's like sitting back and listening to Billy Connolly talk. I always think. Yeah. When he goes, it's very soothing almost. Yeah. He tells it perfectly. And
he's such a, you know, and like, you know, he has, and it's a side quest in God of War Ragnarok essentially, and you find out that he had, like, Mimir, although he's just a head attached to your waist now, you find out that like years ago he had a love interest who was one of the Valkyries, I think, and you never, you know, he goes into this whole thing in depth. If you do that side quest, if you actually do that mission, I mean, it's never a thing that he'll go into as part of the normal story. So they're going through some caverns and some caves and reading some things, and Mimir's like, oh God, I didn't realize that this is what happened to her, and, you know, he's getting quite sad, and Atreus and Kratos are like, oh, we're sorry, bud, like, we didn't realize that, you know, you had this, like, you know, tragedy or mishap in your life. And I just love, you know, because Mimir is such a separate father figure to Atreus as well, because Kratos can be like such a shithead sometimes, especially in the first game, that, you know, when you're on like the boats or whatever, and you're rowing as Kratos, but you can hear like Atreus and Mimir having a little whispered conversation. He's like, don't mind him, lad. Like, you know, like just trying to make Atreus feel better. And I was like, he's such a caring character, which I kind of needed, because Kratos could be, although I played as the super renegade shepherd, I was like, Kratos is a bit too mean for me sometimes, but Mimir was such a good balance. And then sometimes when Atreus went missing and Kratos was like losing his mind about like, how do I find him? Mimir was like, are the lads able for, like, they're trying to help, like, he was just there to help everybody. And I love that, like, you know, and in the meantime just telling 1,000,001 stories that were just so interesting. I was like, what an NPC, like, you know, just story time with Mimir. That's all I wanted in that game.
And I always like that he'll give you a little shout as well, because he's like, he's eyes on your back basically. I always love that when you're in like a fight or whatever. He's like, oh, watch out behind you there now, and like someone's coming in to absolutely clean you out, but you haven't picked up on it yet. Like, like, oh, thank you for that one, Mimir.
And it's such a great little concept that you've got have eyes in the back of your head, because you've got this like the head of a man. It's like he is, and like you know, it's even funny as well. One of the things I thought was quite funny in that game was that one of the powers you get is something you can give to Mimir to make him like to shoot the lasers out of his eyes. And like that whole scene's hilarious, because he's like, when he realizes what it is you're trying to do to him, he's like, I don't know about that, fellas. I'm just using him as a weapon or whatever, you know. So he, you know, he was, I think probably is my all-time favorite NPC in a video game, because he brought a very different, it's not some shopkeeper that you think's funny, it's not Otacon who's pathetic but you love to hear him. It's like a guy, like a guy who's there for the entire team. He's like with you from start to finish, and not only is he funny, but he's compassionate and just tells amazing stories, which for me, playing through that game, added such a level of depth to it that I was like, God of War is a really, really good game. Like fighting and everything like that in it is great, but that thing of just being told about Norse mythology, and a lot of it meant something to these characters because they lived it and they've got a relationship with it. But even just for me, I was like, I'm learning so much.
I imagine he has an amazing voice as well, right?
Scottish. Like big old Scottish accent on him, and it's just so satisfying to listen to, like, you know. Great character, and like I love his compassion. Like he's you know, in a world where you've got like Kratos, who's like just a shit dad who gives Atreus such a hard time about being a kid and not being a man, and you're sick and you're not strong like me. Kratos to Mimir is like, don't listen to him, lad. Like I can't do a Scottish accent.
he is very small though, the kid. Like you're just like, are you
he's
really
very
the
small.
son?
Yeah. But no, I have to put Mimir up there. Kev, we got anybody else before we kick it for today?
Yeah, I'll give a quick shout out to old Bill from The Last of Us. You know,
nice choice.
Yeah,
yes.
like iconic character, and like, you know, great to see him brought to life, I suppose, in the series. Obviously in a very different way, but you know,
but equally as good in a very different way. Equally as good.
Yeah, like just he's such an impactful character in that show and in the game.
Which version of him do you prefer?
I think I loved the depth that the show went into. I think that offered something that the game, you know, not that the game didn't offer any depth about him. Like obviously, like he's portrayed fantastically, but just to see those extra details and the level of prep that he did. You know, I thought some of those scenes of like just how fucking organized that man is.
Yeah.
Which I was like he must be the doomsday planners poster boy now going.
Well, that's what I was. Me and Lauren were laughing because, you know, all that doomsday stuff and preppers, they tend to be more of the right wing. Like we were like, I don't know if we should be glorifying this, but you and me watched that episode, and I was like, this is such a satisfying. Like if this is what you were into, this must be like fucking porn.
Like I bet that was the best
like,
day of his life.
Yeah,
I told
he
you
wanted
so.
it to happen more than anything.
Yeah, he had all
it's
this
not a
doomsday
case
plans.
of would it, it's a case of fantasizing about it. Like, you know.
And he's able to think. But yeah, so what is, because like Bill's quite gruff in the game, much gruffer than he is in the.
Yeah, and I suppose the show kind of fairly like he showed a side of him that, you know, the game couldn't, and you know, like the relationship with Frank obviously like is just, you know, it's beautifully done, to be fair, and yeah, like just to get that insight into who he was behind this, because I suppose like the way he's portrayed in the game, like I had points with like, does this guy have it together? Like I'm not too sure if like this guy is, you know, gonna. I thought at points in the game he was gonna like double cross at different phases and all this sort of stuff, just because he seemed like erratic constantly and beyond paranoid. I thought he'd, you know, sell them down a river maybe if push came to shove, and he doesn't, you know, and he's just top lad.
Turns out he's a man of honor. He just, like anyone living by themselves for that long, like he's just constantly mumbling and talking to himself, and I love that realism in terms of how people would behave in that type of situation.
And he had such a great in the game, him and Ellie as characters had such a great chemistry that like he thought she was just an annoying little shit, and she knew that he thought that, so was just pressing all of the buttons. It, like, you know, because that part of the game is quite intense, especially like getting to the school to get the battery and everything. That's a really intense part of the game, and I don't know if I could have coped without them, like without Ellie calling him all sorts of names and him calling him Ellie, you know, this fucking smart young girl, all sorts of names, but actually didn't give a shit. So he had that was a really fun chemistry, because the rest of it was just so dark and scary and tense that I was like, oh, thank fuck she's giving him loads of shit, because I need a moment like to sit down and relax here, like, you know, because I only my brother was playing through it recently, and I popped down to the house, and he was at the part where you're running through all the different yards with Bill to get to the school, and I was like, he is so much fun. Like all the shit that he's shouting at you and stuff like that, like he's giving you so much guff the entire way. Like he's a really fun character to have in the game. Craig, got anybody to round it off with?
I didn't have one prepped, but I mean, based on just me picking Wolf, I guess because Wolf was number 2 on my like all-time favorite character list, and I guess I should mention Liquid Snake, like, you know, because he's my favorite video game character of all time. So because you don't get to play as him, he's an NPC.
He is an NPC.
So he's an NPC. So. I just think it would be absolutely fantastic to see more of his story, and a reason why I love him is because he's with you, although he's the leader of the bad guys, he's also with you, giving you advice for the entire Metal Gear Solid.
What's his name again?
He's Master McDonald Miller.
Master McDonald,
you know, which is great, because in Metal Gear Solid 5, like Master Miller like meets Eli, who is Liquid Snake, and like uses some like jujitsu on him and just takes him down instantly, and I'm like,
That's
he's going to remember that.
That's who he aspired to be.
like he's going to sneak into your house 20 years from now and murder you.
And take your namesake, and I love that. Yeah,
so I love that, like, he's such a psycho. He remembered that from years ago and he wanted to take him down. But also, like, he's not just a villain. He wants to mess with people. Like, he could easily have just done the whole mission and like firing off the nukes, but he wanted to be there with Snake to be like, oh, here's the advice. Why don't you sneak in the vent? You might get in that way, you know, even though he knows that like fucking Snake is on his way.
And he's a guy who's all about the theater and the pageantry. Yeah. Like he really, it's like, I don't want to just, you know, do my plan. I want to create a moment, like, you know, he's all
what Tony Stark would call a full-blown diva, like, you know, like he wants the theatrics, he wants to like be the one at the top of the tower giving the big speech, looking down on everyone else, which he does do in Metal Gear Solid 2, you know, like you have like Solidus, Liquid, or Solid Snake, you've Raiden, and then Ocelot giving a big monologue where out of nowhere Liquid Snake just takes over him. This is like, I'm the real villain, you know, like hands in the air, just fucking screaming down at everyone, just being like, I am the shit.
Great news to that voice actor as well, who was voicing Ocelot, because he has to, not only does he have to play Ocelot, he then has to play Liquid Snake, who's incredibly different to the Ocelot character, especially in 4, the big theatric, so that was a great bit.
The most devastating thing for me was Metal Gear Solid 4 when they didn't bring Cam Clark back and they just kept Ocelot's voice, but Ocelot was being Liquid. Yeah. And I was like, this makes no sense to me at all. Yeah. So, I mean, I didn't even want to play Metal Gear Solid 4. I boycotted it. Like, you know, I got it off of friends and I played it for free. I wasn't buying it. I was like, how dare you ruin the story? Like, it doesn't make any sense that suddenly Ocelot's back in control because Liquid took over at the end. It doesn't make any sense.
The problem with Metal Gear Solid, Craig, is that I would say 10% of it makes sense.
Yes.
The other 90% of it is.
I know, but back when Metal Gear Solid 2 ended, we didn't realize it was all full of shit. It was only when Metal Gear Solid 4 came out we realized, oh, he had no plan for this. Like, this is just going in every direction.
He's just trying to take it right.
Is it mentioned at all, or is it just...
No, they never go into it at all. At the very, very, very end of Metal Gear Solid 4, while Liquid is fighting, his name changes to Ocelot, and then he's like, you're pretty good. But his voice was always Ocelot's the entire game. Yeah. You know, but at the end, it's implied that it was never Liquid and it was Ocelot all along. Even when in Metal Gear Solid 2, he was giving the big speech in the Cam Clark voice. I was like, there's no way Ocelot could have done that.
Yeah.
But I love that character. I love the cutscenes from the remake of Metal Gear Solid 1.
Twin Snakes.
These are both fighting on top of the Metal Gear Solid. These are both like toe to toe, completely equally matched. And then he falls down, and I don't talk about the character himself too much, but if he had his own spin-off game of him taking over Foxhound, of him breaking into the base and killing everyone and taking over, and then Solid Snake comes in, you know, like a prequel.
Yeah.
You know, or even add him as kids, because in Metal Gear Solid 5, him and Mantis escape at the end, and it kind of sets them up as the future villains for Metal Gear Solid 1. Let's see him recruit Sniper Wolf, Vulcan Raven. Also, let's see that story, you know. But alas, it's Hideo Kojima.
You never know,
I think
though.
Konami, you know, will they ever give it back to him?
I hope they don't, because his only thing that he's kind of done since then is Death Stranding, which is so wacky. Like, if you thought Metal Gear Solid was wacky, like Death Stranding is a whole different fish of madness. Do you know what I mean? So. Maybe let it die.
But it's mad because he showed the director's cut, and in that footage, I don't know if any of you's watched it.
Director's cut of which?
Of Death Stranding.
Right.
In the director's cut edition, there's all these extra stealth mechanics of you like crouching around and sneaking up on bad guys. I'm like, that's Metal Gear Solid, but it looks stupid because you've about 50 boxes on your back.
So how could you possibly
see it? like it's ridiculous, you know.
Hey, whose boxes are these? You know,
like he's a guy hiding in the corner while like this tower, 20 meters tall, is behind him.
Stupid game, but that's
so
a good
bad.
one. That's a good one. I appreciate that, guys. And I think Kev, is there anyone else you really want to dive into, or are you happy enough with that?
Yeah, got them there, I think, yeah.
Very good. Okay, well, we'll call it there, but I guess...
Under an hour, look at us.
Well, you have to add 10 minutes onto that.
Why?
Because I didn't put it on for 10 minutes.
Here's me looking at the thing, being like, look at us. We're not wasting any time.
No. We're like an hour and 5 minutes or so. Yeah. Sorry, Craig. Sorry to burst your bubble. But yeah, so I guess, you know, we're going to go and do a post show after this. I don't know if you guys remember or saw the picture, but it will be a Would You Rather. I will be asking you a Would You Rather question. We'll go into it. I won't spoil it here. If you want to know what that Would You Rather question is, and it's video game related, don't worry. You can check that out at patreon.com/the gift of gaming. And if you like what we talk about, if you feel there was any NPC characters we missed out on, give us a shout at the gift of gaming podcast @gmail.com. Kev, Craig, it's been a pleasure. And to our listeners, keep enjoying the gift that is gaming.
Thank you all.
Peace out.